Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 word and to some Spanish Grand Prix race reaction. How are we all feeling after that one? Interesting poll. I've got to say that right off the bat. Very interesting poll. As always, asking you to rate the Spanish Grand Prix. 21% say great. 49% said good, sense the tone. Average okay gets 22% and bad gets 8%. I am going to tell you right now, I would put that under okay with some very good moments, and particularly one very good moment, which was, in fact, you know what? Screw it. One great moment between Lando Norris and George Russell. But I would say, I'd say okay with some good moments. So as always, Sean picked something that's not in the poll, but that's just the way it goes. Hope you're all doing well today. Now, before we get started, I'll keep this very brief. I don't want to get into this personally, but I wanted to let people know what's been going on. Apologies for no qualifying watch along yesterday, and apologies if there are any issues next week with content. Again, I'll keep it brief, but my mum had a heart attack this week, so it's been a little bit chaotic is the phrase I'm going to go with. So if I sound a bit flat today or anything like that, I apologise, and please just bear with me over the next few days and maybe a week while we find out what's going on there and everything. She's still with us. She's doing the best she can, bless her. Obviously surgery and things could follow, so things are a bit up in the air at the moment, so just bear with me and appreciate the support to everyone who's reached out to send some positive messages my way. I appreciate that, but I don't want to get into it. We're here to talk about the race. I just wanted to let you all know what is going on and why. Thumbs up. Let's not get into it because I'll start and that'll be it. Yes, Let's go straight to Stuart. I think that's the best way to move on from that and say a very good evening or pre-evening to Stuart. I've said okay for that race. Would you agree, or do you think it's rated higher than that? Hello, firstly, I suppose is the question, or the first thing to say. Is Stuart there? Are we working? I think we're having technical issues, which just sums up the week. It's absolutely perfect. Stuart, I'm sure will let me know when he's here, and then we'll roll on. Thank you everyone in chat. I appreciate that. But yeah, lots to talk about today. Like I say, including that Norris and Russell incident. And Stuart will tell me when everything is checked his end. I think hang on. I'll tell you what might be the issue. Hang on a second. Apologies, peeps. Just check I'm okay. Yeah, we are set on mine, so we're just waiting for Stuart to get on touch. We'll see what happens. So Max Verstappen, Victor, I think Stuart's here before I get on. Has he just saved me from having to do it on my own then? I think I can't quite hear you, Stuart. You've got some robotic issues. I don't know if there's something wrong your end. I don't know if you might need to hop out and reboot, Stuart. So just check with set.
Okay, give me a second.
Oh no,
can you
hear
hear
me now? Hello.
I've got green bars now, so it's all going
there we
great.
go. Yes. It's all good. We're sorted. I think. It's typical Discord. I think it likes to play up. No, I think I'll let you go off, Stuart, and see if you can sort those problems out, because we're still having the issues. It's yeah, I'm good on my end. I think am I? It's having moments. Yeah, we'll I'll start the run through and then see if we can sort this out with Stuart. It might be me. I'll just check all the bit rates and things, but it seems to be being a bit of a pain in the backside. It's just Discord being Discord. It does this every few months to keep me on my toes, I think, more than anything. But I think we're okay. So hopefully Stuart will be able to sort that one out in a few. But yes, Max Verstappen. Let's get into it. I can go somewhat of a distance myself here. So yes, Max Verstappen, win number 61 of his Formula One career. Didn't have it all his own way today, I think it's fair to say. Tricky start. Got alongside Lando Norris. Norris put a bit of a squeeze on the run down to turn one, of course. And then George Russell, we'll get onto that later, just swept around the outside. Absolutely fantastic move, that one. And Max got the move done he had to get done on George Russell at the end of the start of the lap 3, I think it was, wasn't it, with DRS. Got that move done down the outside and sort of, I'm not going to say didn't look back from there. He never... Norris didn't really get close in the sense that he wasn't on his gearbox and he wasn't threatening to snatch that win, but he was closing in the latter stages after that second set of pit stops. So he wasn't comfortable, Max Verstappen, but he wasn't wheel to wheel with Norris at any point. So I think really it's a lot of talk before the weekend and certainly before the race about possibly Red Bull domination being over. I think Max Verstappen said that as well. And I think we've seen today that things are certainly closer than perhaps we feared at the start of the season when it looked like Max was going to cruise it after those first 2 wins in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia in particular. We've definitely got a fight on our hands this year, and that's great to see. And he did well. He did well to manage that race from his point of view. I'll go through my notes. Had DRS in lap 2, like I was saying, got past Russell around the outside of turn 1, a really good move, and then pretty much immediately broke DRS. Lap 13 said he had a bit of a moment at turn 7 on the exit. He was wide with a snap and a bit of a slide, but all okay, didn't cost him too much time. Pitched at the end of lap 17 for mediums and rejoined in P4 behind Piastri and well clear of Russell behind. 1.9 second stop, by the way, sub 2 second pit stops, a great stuff from Red Bull there. And his second stop at the end of lap 44, put on some new softs. Was slowish at 2.8 seconds, so slow for Red Bull. And like I said, I'm not going to go as far as say never looked back,
no.
but it was looking.
I had no idea what you just said to me.
Am I robotic now? Is it? Yeah, it sounds like. Hang on a second. Let me see what I can do. Sorry about this, everyone. I'll tell you what I'll do, Stuart. Just 2 seconds. I'm going to hop off Discord, and then we'll see how we go there. I think that's the best way to do it. I don't know why.
I'll wait here.
Yes, you stay there. Don't go anywhere. Again, apologies, everyone. Like I say, Discord is, I find, and you can tell me if you disagree and you have issues with it, but I find is generally pretty bang on for something like 6 or 7 months, and then all of a sudden it'll just decide it doesn't want to play ball for an afternoon, and we have all sorts of trouble. So let's see what is going on here. So we'll see. You might get a bong here and see what happens if this all works out. Can you hear me, Stuart? Fingers crossed. Or are we still playing up? Let's see what's going on.
Oh, I think I can hear you now.
Have you got me?
I've got you for now.
Okay, for now. I'm not going to start again because I think that's absolutely crazy.
Oh no.
Yeah, are we still? Yeah, okay. I'm going to read.
It's got all the green bars. It says everything's great, but you were a robot.
I have all green bars on this end as well, so I don't know what's going on here. Yes. We can hear you, Stuart. So if I have a play around with settings, if you can hear me, if you just want to let everyone know what you thought of the race.
Okay. Well, at the moment I can hear you fine.
Okay.
I guess we'll see how it goes. Hi everyone. Sorry about this.
Max Verstappen. I've said that I'm not going to go as far as to say never looked back and didn't look comfortable, but an important win and a well managed race is what I've gone with in my notes for Max.
I think he fully deserved it. Other than his usual worries that he has sometimes where things don't feel quite right, which I think is just normal feedback. I think he pretty much controlled the race as he needed to. And once again, I think a race that he won by not really making mistakes, having the pace where he needed it. And I think people around him made just too many little mistakes here and there, which meant they couldn't capitalize and possibly take a win that was grabbable, I think, from him. It wasn't one of those races where everything was signed, sealed, and delivered from the off. This race was not his to win, but I think he took it and won it.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, Lando Norris got really disappointed, didn't he, on the podium? I think he felt he had that, or should have won that. So, in fact, I think he actually said that. So, maybe it was one of those that maybe wasn't Max's day today. But like I said earlier, I think Christian Horner made the point. He needed to get past Russell, and he needed to get a good start, and he did. But he got past Russell quickly after he'd been passed at the start, and that kind of made his race really then, didn't it? And made it a little bit more. Let's say more straightforward than it could have been had everything gone Lando's way today. So I think it feels like quite a big win. I don't know why it feels like a big win, because I think many would maybe argue that he didn't have the fastest car today and still managed to get the victory one way or another, and that feels like a big moment. And I'm not saying that he's under threat in the championship or anything like that, but that's kind of how I see that. And I correct me if I'm wrong, but that's sort of just how it feels to me.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that, and I think you could quite you could make a strong argument that McLaren was probably the fastest car today on Sunday. I think on Saturday McLaren had to push to get that pole, but I think today, I think over the course of the race, as Lando said in the press pen, McLaren was the fastest car. from beginning to end. But I think crucially, George Russell got himself involved at the start, and Max getting past him meant he had Russell as a kind of wedge between him and Norris. And I think potentially without Russell being sort of what essentially was the leader of a train through the first stint, Lando probably could have pushed a little bit and maybe hassled Verstappen for the win. We'll never know, but based on his pace through the rest of the race, I know they're a little bit out of sync on tyre life, but there's a chance Lando could have pushed Verstappen and made it much more difficult for him. But actually building that gap in that first stint was crucial to him having that race in hand.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I ran through my notes already, Stuart. So I don't know if you've got anything in your notes that you wanted to throw in there before we move on. I'm not going to go over it twice because I know we had the technical issues, but those in chat have already heard it. So
sure. I mean, did you just go through Verstappen or Red Bull generally?
Just Verstappen. We're going to come on to Perez in a moment. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that just about covers it. I think, and I agree with you. We're now at the point where Red Bull are not the dominant package, and we've got definitely McLaren with Lando Norris knocking on his door, and possibly on days where the wind is going the right direction, Ferrari and maybe Mercedes as well. So to take wins on days like this is very important. I know he's got that big gap in the championship, but we know how sometimes things can turn around mid-season and the boot be on the other Schumacher, as it were.
Yeah, it only takes a DNF from Max or something like that, or a race like Singapore last year, and all of a sudden, Norris wins that 25-point swing. It can turn. That's the great thing about this point system. It rewards the winner massively, but it can also hamper the championship leader if they had a bad weekend, doesn't it? So I quite like that about it. It's not sort of 1 or 2 points between them. There's a big hefty 7 points. So I like that. But yeah, good stuff from Max today. Like I said, did make the one mistake at turn 7. I think it was exit at turn 7, went a bit wide, had a wobble, but all good, didn't lose too much time. So there you go. That's another win for Max. 61 in his career. And I think he's won most of those in the last 2 years or something like that. I can't remember what the stat was, but it is absolutely bonkers. On the other side of the garage, Sergio Perez. Just a standard Perez weekend. It feels like at the moment we're in that lull again. Poor qualifying. I know in his defence he was sacrificed by Red Bull to give Verstappen the toe in quali, from what I remember of quali. So that's probably hampered him a little bit. Got a 3-place grid drop, which dropped him down to 11th place. And I know we saw some overtaking today. We saw loads last year, but it's not the easiest track to overtake on. So 11th place to 8th place, Christian Horner said, was the maximum they could hope for. That's what they were aiming for. I'm going to be honest, I haven't watched a huge amount this weekend because of obviously things at home, but qualifying in the race, throughout qualifying and throughout the race, I've sort of looked where Perez is, and I'm sorry to say, I keep thinking, why does he have this contract? If we're basing it on performance. Sorry, Checo. But yeah, early on, made very little progress. Did get past Hulkenberg for P10 on lap 12, pitted on lap 13. Made a nice move around the outside of Ocon on lap 31, outside of turn 1 and inside of turn 2. Pitted end of lap 32 for second time and dropped to P14, and did actually do a 3-stopper in the end. Pitted in lap 45 for Soft and rejoining 10th place, and then got past Ocon, Gasly and co to get into P8 and couldn't quite catch Piastri. A 10th quicker on the final lap and split 25 seconds behind Aussie P. So that's still 20 seconds for a pit stop. He's still 5 seconds off. And even if you take out the pit stop, the extra pit stop, he's still 40 seconds-ish off the lead. I mean, it's a lot, isn't it? It's a big gap. And I know that it's close up front, but I said it last time, I'm going to keep saying it. Red Bull need him up there, and he's not up there at the moment.
Yeah, I do tend to agree in a way, but I'm going to go a little bit of defending of Perez this weekend in a sort of chain reaction of events that started in Canada, really, when Red Bull told him to drag his car around the track to avoid having a safety car, which arrived anyway, which gave him the grid penalty, which meant it was easier to sacrifice him in qualifying. He didn't get to have a final run in Q3, which I kind of accounts for him being probably so low. We don't, he probably would have been able to get himself a few places higher. Obviously, we'll never know. But probably not starting in 8th. 8th, yeah. Well, he didn't start in 8th, but he qualified 8th.
Yeah, qualified, yeah.
So I think he probably would have qualified higher if he hadn't been sacrificed. And then he got put on a very aggressive 3-stop strategy, which meant he would have to spend the whole race overtaking, which to be fair, he did, have a solid crack at, especially towards the end. So on one hand, I think he sort of did the best with what was kind of available to him after Canada. On the other hand, I think it's very easy to say if Max Verstappen started 11th, he probably wouldn't have finished 8th. He probably would have finished somewhere towards the podium, I think, even on a tricky track to overtake like this. So I think could do better, but wasn't necessarily given the best opportunity to score points. I think he was sort of definitely playing second fiddle in the team this weekend.
It's like my old school reports. That one could do better.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. I defend him a lot, and I'll continue to when I need to. But I just, like you say, and I know this is the driver making the difference, and comparing Verstappen to Perez is just pointless because they're just not on the same level. But like you say, Max starts 11th. You're not writing him off for a podium, are you? Even with the field being close, you're still thinking he can nick a podium here. But Perez, you're thinking, well, 8th place maybe. He's a tail end of that gaggle, if you like, of 8 cars, 4 teams, and it could be. I mean, Red Bull have got a relatively healthy lead in the constructors, but it could be quite costly come the end of the year. And the argument I keep making is that Max Verstappen, yes, he's got this healthy championship lead, but we've just said how quickly that can turn around. And if Perez isn't there to defend him, like hopefully Oscar Piastri can be there for Lando Norris, and I was going to say Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc, I think they're falling out too much in the minute, but Russell and Hamilton can work together, Norris and Piastri can work together. It's tricky, but like I said, the strategy hasn't helped him today. But flip that again, is another driver on that strategy finishing better, probably. But it's tough for Perez. And you qualify 8th, you end up 11th with a penalty. Hopefully better in Austria, but I feel like we're saying every week now, better in Austria, better in Spain, better in somewhere. We keep saying hopefully better next time, but yeah, difficult.
No, I mean.
We are having technical difficulties today. You've just gone all robotic, Stuart. We've lost you again. I don't know what is going on, so apologies to everybody.
To secure the points they need. I'm sorry if I was just talking over you there, but you disappeared.
So the funny thing is, so did you. You went completely robotic. I didn't hear any of that. I just heard the points they need. So I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, apologies everyone. If it carries on, we may have to just cut this very short, unfortunately, which wouldn't be ideal. Stuart will let me know if he can hear me all right now, and I'll tell him if I can hear him. But
yeah, you're fine now.
Yeah, fine.
You just disappeared.
You're not fine. Yeah, Stuart's gone again. I'll read the super chat from Bill. Thank you very much, Bill, for your super chat. It says 2024 crazy prediction after 10 rounds. Year end constructors will be Red Bull, McLaren, Mercedes, and Ferrari. Thank you very much, Bill. Not quite as crazy as your prediction. Was it last year or the year before where you got us all nervous at one point? But yeah, thank you very much for the support there, Bill. Really appreciate it. I think it's a Discord issue because everyone in chat can hear me fine, but then we're not hearing Stuart sometimes, and Stuart's not hearing me. So I don't know what is going on here. So I don't know what is going on with this. Part of it could be my computer. It is struggling at the moment, big time, which won't be helping. And the internet connection isn't great either for some reason. So we'll see what happens. But Stuart will let me know when he's back in and can hear me all right, and I'll let him know if I can hear him okay. Yeah,
I've been able to hear you for a good minute now, solidly.
That's
if
all
you
right.
Can hear this.
I could just hear you, yeah. That's all right.
We'll see how we go.
We'll talk about McLaren, and then if it continues, Stuart, what I might do is let you go, and we'll get that together again for Austria and see how we go there. I can solo the rest of the stream if needs be. So,
all right, yeah. We'll do our best.
We'll see how we go. It might all be fine now, hopefully. But yeah, McLaren. Lando Norris, pole position, ended up finishing in P2 today, 2.2 seconds off the lead. I'll read my notes. Big squeeze on Verstappen at the start, no investigation necessary. Dropped to P3. Did run long for better tyre delta over the other drivers. Pitted at the end of lap 23 in the end for mediums and rejoined in P6 behind Sainz. Took him a little while, I think he said, in the cool down room to get past the Mercedes. took a lot of time there, which may have cost him. Really nice ballsy move around the outside of George Russell at turn 3, then around the outside of turn 4, and then took the place back at turn 5, and then Norris kicked up some dirt on the way to turn 7 and got past to take P2. That was, for me, Stuart, Norris versus Russell, that side-by-side stuff for those, 1, 2, 3, 4 corners, 4 or 5 corners was probably battle of the race. Thoroughly enjoyed that. But I think I've gone robotic again, so I think, well, that was a great race. I really enjoyed that battle between those two. That was a lot of fun. As I said at the start, 3.6 seconds stop, so was slowish when he pitted at the end of lap 47 to put on some used softs. That was his final pit stop of the day. And Karun Chandler made a great point in commentary, actually. He said 4.2 seconds between Verstappen and Norris before that first pit stop. And then, of course, that was around what it was when he made that comment. And a better pit stop, better start, all of that. The time spent behind Russell is what possibly cost him the win today. So that was quite I think that's where a lot of Norris's frustration comes from, is the fact that he didn't convert that into victory, and I think he thinks he should have done so. I can understand that frustration, definitely. Are you there, Stuart? Are we working? If not, we'll call it quits there on this one, I'm afraid. We'll give up on Discord. Can you hear me, Stuart?
Okay, I don't know if you can hear me, but you are going in and out, so I'm sort of hearing some of what you're saying and not others of what you're saying. So I'm assuming the same is going to happen when I talk. How am I sounding?
I can hear you fine, but if you can hear me, I think the best thing to do is just to call it on Discord today, and we'll get together for Austria, and I'll solo the stream to the end, because otherwise we're going to spend the next hour and a half just saying hello.
Yeah.
Hello. But yeah, I think that's the best thing to do today.
I got the crucial part of that. Okay, I think that makes sense. Sorry about this. I'll definitely be back for Austria, and hopefully maybe we'll do a little test on Saturday or something. And just good luck with the stream.
Thank you. Thanks, though, Stuart. Appreciate it.
Okay, love you, man.
Sorry about that, everyone. I like to have a guest on, but unfortunately, like I say, I don't want to spend the whole stream just going hello. So it's just us. I know Stuart sounds fine on the stream. I've had to listen to the stream while he was talking earlier. I sound okay on the stream, but for some reason Discord just is not working. So we'll see. We'll see what happens for the weekend. But yeah, Lando Norris, great drive. But I think frustration there from his side of things. On the other side of the garage, though, real disappointment for Oscar Piastri. He didn't really have the pace, did he, all weekend to take the fight to Lando Norris, which was really disappointing to see. You know, we talk about Perez and his issues at Red Bull, but Piastri at times just doesn't seem to have the pace that Lando Norris has. And maybe some will argue comparing those two is a little bit pointless as well. But that's, you know, we've got to compare them to teammates. That's the way it works in Formula One. But I was just a bit disappointed with Piastri today and all weekend, really. And obviously hampered a little bit because of his bad qualifying, which, of course, was his fault. He made the mistake at turn 12, was it? Or turn 13? Coming through those final couple of corners, he made the mistake and went into the gravel. So that was all on him. So we've got to be fair. You know, he's made that mistake and it's cost him, and that's really cost him in the race. But it's big points for McLaren. And in fairness to Oscar Piastri, you know, second season in F1. He's up against Lando Norris on form. He had a great weekend in Monaco, did Piastri, we saw there. So we know he's got it. A bit like Perez earlier in the year, we know he's got it, but he needs to be delivering that more consistently again if we're going to have these really, really tight championship fights. So, yes, or tight championship fights, and fights in the championship top 8 positions for teams. So it's all good fun. But yeah, like I say, Norris looked disappointed. I might have a look for his press release, and we'll do a little bit of Q&A a little bit later and see if he said anything since. But his interview, he said that he thinks it's one that got away. Andrea Stella seemed a little bit more, is pragmatic the word? Probably not, but a little bit more balance with it, and you know, still a great result. And yes, they could have won the race, but it's always tough, and you know, as team principals tend to be. But I totally get Lando's frustration. I can completely understand it from his side of things. But great fight with George Russell. It's 18 points on the board. I keep saying it, but you go back just over 12 months and they were absolutely nowhere. What they did for the update for Austria last year and what they've done since is fantastic. So they've come a long way in a relatively short space of time, and I think they've got to enjoy that. So, but I think Norris is well placed to win a couple more, well, probably more than a couple more races this year, and I wouldn't be at all surprised. And Sky Sports will love it if he wins the British Grand Prix. It's one of the things in commentary today. It's my one big moan about today is the commentary from Sky. They were getting so many things wrong when they were going through, wrong drivers being identified and all of this, all because they were too busy dribbling over Lando Norris, fighting for the lead or pushing for the lead. I thought, come on, pay some attention. So I can't imagine what they'll be like at Silverstone, but I still think that's a great result for McLaren. It's big points as well in their fight with Ferrari, although Ferrari, what did they get? 5th and 6th, I think. They're just outscoring them. So that's going to be a fun fight. Whatever happens in the constructors with Red Bull, and whatever happens if Perez finds his form, I think Ferrari versus McLaren with a little bit of Mercedes sprinkled in is going to be a lot of fun this year. But I think Norris has got a great chance in Austria. It's a track as well, Austria, a little bit, isn't it? Where the curbs need to be ridden to a point, and it can get bumpy at spots, so that could play towards McLaren rather than Red Bull, but we'll see in a week's time. Looking forward to that. But good stuff from Norris, and a bit like Stuart said, Perez could do better with Piastri. He did get a 3-second stop, which did cost him a bit of time, but I mean, we're talking a few tenths there. Rejoined behind Hulkenberg and got through quite quickly, so that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. But Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton, for the first time since Mexico last year, I think they said on Sky, has it really been that long? Ruby will tell me. Was on the podium today. I think drove really, really well today. Some good pace in that Mercedes. And I think I don't want to... There's always a risk that it's a false dawn, isn't it, with Mercedes? We've seen that over the last couple of years, that they sort of have a good couple of races and then it falls away again. But you look at Canada, very different conditions, very different track. They were strong. They were quick. They come here, very different track, very different conditions. They're still quick. And I think, to be fair to Mercedes, they seem to have found something, but I don't want to get too complicated, too confident on that one on Mercedes' behalf. So great to see them up there. Great to see Lewis Hamilton up there as well for yet another podium. He pitted at the end of lap 16. Had a good stop. Start of lap 19 went for a move on Carlos Sainz. This is probably his big controversial moment of the race at turn 1. A little bit of contact, but he made the move stick. Sainz felt it was an unfair move and was forced wide, although the stewards didn't bother to investigate that one. And his second stop, end of lap 43, went for the soft and overtook Russell for P3 around the outside of turn 1 on lap 52. That was a lovely move as well. But the Sainz one, for me, that's nothing. That's racing. There's, it's a bit of rubbing of wheels, bit of bumping. I don't mind that. And if the boot was on the other foot, I'd be saying exactly the same. If Hamilton runs him completely off the road into a gravel trap or whatever, or takes off his front wing or gives him a puncture, then maybe we look at it differently. But for me, that was fair. And I think most people would agree. Some will not, of course. But I think most people would agree that for me, there's not a lot in that. And if there was anything in it, the stewards might look at it. They might look at it. It depends on how you feel about it. I just don't think that was an incident there that was worth. I can understand Carlos Sainz's frustration because there was contact and he did go off the track, but I think if we're giving penalties out for that, then again we may as well pack up and go home. We've got to let them get close, and if there's a bit of rubbing, I don't really see that as a massive issue. So for me, I'm fine with that move. Carlos Sainz isn't, and I'd imagine Carlos Sainz fans aren't, but that's just the way I see it. Thanks, Will. Will's here. Hi, Will. Been a while, mate. I'm not Hamilton simp. Don't start this nonsense. No, it's I just don't think there's much in that. I can see why people will get mad about it, but it's just I think the radio message was probably more dramatic than the actual moment itself. Is the way I'd word that one. George Russell, gotta say, start of the day, absolutely stunning. It's always a great drag down to turn 1, isn't it, with the slipstream and all of that. So I really, really do enjoy Spain. It's a bit like Mexico. It's not quite as big a run, but a bit like Mexico in that just because you're not on pole, it doesn't mean you can't win. You've got a great chance on that run to turn 1. Russell got the slipstream. Norris and Verstappen said in their post-race cool down chat that they think they slowed each other down as well with their battling down to turn 1, and Russell just swept really beautifully around the outside. And people might say that's not a very exciting move at the start, but there's something about the outside of turn 1 in Spain that's just a really lovely move to look at. So really, really enjoyed that. He took the lead, led for a couple of laps, but Max Verstappen got through at the start of lap 3, as I've already gone over, with a nice move there, a bit of side-by-side action. Russell pitted end of lap 15 and had a slow stop at 5.3 seconds. And actually very nearly lost out to Carlos Sainz as well. and Russell pitted for the second time at the end of lap 36 for hards, but the hard tyre today was not a great race tyre, and actually after just 6 laps on the tyres, he said that they were sliding already. So bit. I don't know. I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for. A bit frustrating to see that the harder tyre didn't work today, but then also it's quite nice to see the softer compounds being used. It adds a bit more drama, doesn't it? Are these tyres going to get worn out? Are they going to get them to the end? So, yeah, probably could have done with the softs in that final stint, but he pitted. When did Hamilton pitted? What did I say? Lap 43 for his final stop. George was 36. Yeah, 36 was probably a little bit too early. I think-ish. And it's only 3 laps earlier than Verstappen, so maybe not. So maybe that's what they were thinking. But it was an interesting call in the end, and it didn't work for him. But he wasn't a million miles away. 4.5 seconds off a podium. Only 0.3 over Leclerc over the line, which is interesting. So yes, good stuff. Good stuff from Mercedes. Good points, and I think they are in the mix now with the front runners, or it feels that way at least. So yeah, that's my notes. That's my wrap up of those 3 teams. If you want to know, if you've got anything that I've missed, let me know now. I'll take your comments now on the top 3. Then we'll do the point scorers and Haas, because they weren't that far away from points. And then I'll fly through the rest. Then we'll do some Q&A. If you are just tuning in and wondering why Stuart's not here, we had some technical issues. Discord wasn't playing ball, so we couldn't get it to work. All very robotic and a bit scruffy, so we just decided to solo this one, or I'll solo this one, and then hopefully he'll be back next week for the race reaction for Austria. So apologies again there, but these things happen, and there's not much I can do without stopping the stream and restarting everything and checking everything, and then spending 2 hours doing that, getting angry and throwing the PC out the window. It's the way it goes. It's just been one of them weeks for me. It's not been great. So Nick says, yeah, very poor commentary this weekend. Yeah, it was just it's just frustrating. I don't mind a bit of misidentification, but in the heat of the moment, getting the driver wrong, but things like, Ocon's just passed Perez. Ocon hadn't just passed Perez at all. Things like that. It just annoys me, and there you go. So, yeah, a few people agree on the TV coverage. It's good to see Lewis and George in the mix as well. So cited canvas. Yeah, I agree. It's great to see them up there. It just adds to it, doesn't it? If you've got Red Bull already being chased by McLaren, and then you put Ferrari on a good weekend for Ferrari in the mix, and then you throw Mercedes in there as well, it just gives us so much to keep an eye on. So we've been sort of starved of that over the last 12, 18 months, and it looked like we're going to have another season like that, so it's great to see fighting at the front. Absolutely love it. Did nobody have a set of mediums for the final stretch? Also asked cited canvas. I'm not sure. I didn't get the tyre things up before I started. I normally do, but I don't know who did and who didn't, but I would assume somebody must have had something. So I'm quite interested to see why they didn't go with mediums rather than hards, but then, like you say, if they didn't have them, then they kind of can't, can they? CPB1 said I'd rather see Sainz go to Sauber next year than Audi. There you go. Yinka says a bit of rubbing is never a massive issue. Yeah, I tend to agree on that one. I know there are a few people that really don't like it, but yeah. Yeah, it's a Discord issue, Will. So thank you. Thanks for the offer, mate, but I do need to get you on a stream at some point, so we'll have a chat. Whip me a DM to remind me, because I'll likely forget. So it's a Discord issue. It's not a Stuart issue as such. If you follow, it's just yeah, I did see. We'll get to that in a bit. We'll do those in Q&A, the driver transfer stuff. I'm just double checking to make sure there's nothing that I've massively missed. You can remind me a little bit later. Ruby will be there with the banter, I'm sure. Ruby, thank you very much. Member for 12 months. Says found out that I can do this. Slow start, but Lewis showed his racecraft today. His move on Carlos and on George was great. Lewis is the GOAT, according to Ruby. So there you go. Ruby just likes to get me to say that. it's in most super chats, just to see if I can say it. So yeah, that's it for the top 3 teams. I'll spin on, and then again, if I forget anything, come back to me in Q&A and we can run through it. I'm a little bit thrown at the moment, trying to work out where we're up to. So Ferrari, first thing, I don't want to be a Ferrari fan anymore. It's so depressing sometimes. Came into this weekend expecting big things, and 5th and 6th. And I know you look at the gaps in qualifying and you look at the gaps at the end of the race. Yes, okay, 30 seconds off the lead, but Sainz is only 8.3 off Leclerc, and Leclerc's only just under 0.4 off a podium. So I know it's really close in there, and the gaps are quite small. So somebody's got to be 5th and somebody's got to be 3rd. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, but it's just frustrating as a Ferrari fan. 2 weekends on the bounce. We're coming out of Monaco talking about a possible title challenge, and then 2 races later we're looking at them trying to cling on to second place versus McLaren. So it's frustrating. But in the notes, Leclerc, I've not got a lot in the notes to be fair on Ferrari. He was the last to pit actually from the lead on lap 24. 3 second stop and rejoin in P7 behind Gasly. Ferrari's race pace, I think overall, certainly up until the final stint, just didn't quite seem to be there. I would say Red Bull or McLaren the fastest, followed by whoever that isn't the fastest. Then it'll be Mercedes. So I would say fourth fastest for Ferrari for a lot of this race. So Leclerc was quick at the end, but that's on fresher tyres, softer tyres. Russell struggling, so that's where that's come from. But they just didn't seem to have the pace to challenge today for top three without a difference in strategy or difference in tyre. So that's frustrating. And Sainz again went for the move on. I've talked about the Hamilton one, but did have an incident with Leclerc. Went for a move around the outside of Leclerc and made light contact. Sainz went wide, completed the move off track, but the stewards noted him for it and didn't take any kind of action on that, which is fair enough. No investigation necessary. And second stop was at the end of lap 36 for Sainz. But Sainz, the contact again, it has caused some damage. It's unnecessary between teammates, but I don't think it's that dramatic. I'm surprised the stewards didn't maybe have a word or at least investigate the Sainz one, because he did technically complete the move off track, but they're probably thinking contact, teammates, leave it. So it's, I'm not, I don't know. It's frustrating when you see teammates come together at all, especially when you support the team. But I don't think there's much in that. But I'm just surprised, because usually when a driver, even if their teammate sort of goes across a corner, it's at least investigated. So we tend to do in the past, unless I'm misremembering. But I don't think it was that big of a deal. Julie says Sainz went wide because when he was ahead of Leclerc, he didn't concede, so he had to go off to avoid a crash. Yeah, maybe that's what the stewards have said. Maybe that's what race control looked at it and said, well, it's he's got to go somewhere. That's fair enough. But I don't want to see Ferraris colliding. I know some people love it because it's funny to them, but I don't like it. But they just didn't seem to have the pace today, and that's the disappointing thing. But at the same time, no pace. 5th and 6th place ahead of Piastri and Perez. Not too far off a podium in the end from Leclerc. It's probably not a terrible weekend. Certainly not as bad as Canada. Cried myself to sleep last Sunday, or the other Sunday. I didn't really, but I'm just being dramatic. Why not? So, yeah. Science Cameron says Ferrari seemed like they were stuck on some kind of limiter mid-race. It didn't look like they could push at all until the end. I wonder if it's tyre management. Ferrari are pretty good at that, but it got quite hot, didn't it? Compared to where it was yesterday or earlier in the day, for example. So maybe a bit of tyre management there, and that's why they weren't pushing quite so hard and saved it for the end or whatever and extending. But we'll find out, I'm sure, in the days to come as we approach the final few days of Spanish Grand Prix coverage before we get on to Austria. But yeah, it's points. It's an okay result. It keeps them in the fight versus McLaren. They don't lose too much, so I think that's in fact. Yeah, don't lose too much. That's all right for them. But team of the weekend, arguably, by the way, Alpine. Where's this come from? P9 for Gasly and P10 for Ocon. They qualified 7th and 8th. Or they started 7th and 8th. I mean, you compare to where they were a few weeks ago. They were nowhere. They were doing really well, and actually, it's not even just that they qualified well, and it's not just that they had a good finish. Gasly's pace early on was pretty decent. He was doing a really good job to hang on to sort of 7th place, and I honestly thought they dropped like a stone. Delta's Briatore boost. Yeah, he's just come straight in. New car, perfect. It's a boot on the backside, and they're all terrified now, probably more likely. But yeah, great pace from Alpine this weekend compared to where they were, and I'm really happy for them. Good to see them up there. I've always gonna have a soft spot for the Enstone team, obviously, and it may have been better. Gasly had a slow first stop, and it was 6.7 seconds. He was only 2.5 behind Perez. So I know it doesn't always work like this, but if you knock 3.7 seconds off that stop, he may have been able to fend Perez off towards the end and get P6. So P8, sorry. So maybe that's cost them a little bit there. But like I said, they did a really good job to maintain that P7 early on. I've had a little word already on the move around the outside of Ocon. So we've done that one. But I've not got anything in my notes from Esteban Ocon. So, oh, the hat thrust. Lol. I like that. I'm not going to read it, but I like that. I don't want to start a war, but I appreciate that. That's good stuff. I'm just going to check something here. I'm going to go and have a look at Alpine and see if they said anything, because I've not got anything on Ocon, which is a little bit frustrating, because I think they did well today. So close to 80 today, says Pierre Gasly. Yeah, I agree. That was what I've just said, so that's fine. They don't always get the press releases from Alpine, which is a little bit weird. Their media site is novel. Let's put it that way. It's not always, I've got nothing in there. So, but no, just a great result overall for Alpine, I think, today. We will do some chat about driver lineup stuff a bit later in the stream, definitely. But, yeah, good stuff from Alpine is what I'm going to say on that one. And I do want to include Haas in the point scoring as well, because although they didn't score points, they weren't that far away, relatively speaking. They were also on the lead lap, so that's probably the fairest way to say it. Nico Hülkenberg, P11, Magnussen in P17. Hülkenberg was 13th, Magnussen 16th at the start. Great start, actually, from Hülkenberg. Went up to P10, made 3 places off the line, so well done to him. Slowish second stop at 3.6 seconds and got a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane as well. Put those together, maybe... probably not, but maybe would have been in that fight a bit closer for P10. Ocon seemed to have the pace late on to fend him off, though. Half a second quicker on the last lap, so maybe not. But, it all happens. It's the way it goes in Formula 1 sometimes. They go against you. K-Mag, he was P17, like I say, slightly slow first stop at the end of lap 10. That was... and then got a 5-second time penalty as well for a false start, which made things worse. So his second stop was actually 9 seconds, which included the 5-second penalty, but still slow at 4 seconds. So lost quite a bit of time in pit stops today, did Kevin Magnussen, for one reason or another. And according to Ao Komatsu in the Sky coverage, he said that Magnussen really struggled for pace on the medium tyres. So that's why he is maybe a little bit further off. He's 1.4 off Bottas over the line. His pace was... 0.3 slower than his teammates, so not massive gap, but big enough. It's kind of really interesting back there. You've got Alpine in the points, but then you've got Hülkenberg and Alonso and Sauber in there and RB are in there. It's quite close, so it's not a disastrous weekend for Haas, but they were on the fringes of points, which is definitely good to see. Ruby says Magnussen didn't crash is the only note that I had. Fair enough. I hope you've all got notes. I might have to come to you for some of these. See how things go. I usually go to Stuart when I miss things or I've not got much on the team. I'm looking forward to Sauber. I'm hoping that Pascal is here to give me some information on them. So there we go. He did get a speeding penalty. Yep, we've covered that one. Absolutely. Sauber weren't far off the points. We'll get onto them in just a moment. Haas is doing a fantastic job with Komatsu at the helm. I completely agree. He seems to have really stabilised that team quite nicely, doesn't he? I don't know if he's a bit calmer than maybe Gunther Steiner was. Perhaps that part of it. Casey says Alpine have finally overtaken Ollie Behrman in points. There's the stat for you. Nice one. And I think I'm just going to have a double check. See if there's anything you guys saying on those teams that we've just been through before I move on to the rest. Obviously, usually this will take a bit longer, but we're just going to fly through them based on my notes, and then we'll do some Q&A about the race and see where we go from there. Not much in there. It's difficult because obviously when you've got so much going on at the front, you've got the battles between Norris and Russell and Norris closing in on Verstappen and what's happening with the Ferraris. Sometimes your Aston Martins, your teams like Haas and Williams and all that, they tend to get forgotten about a little bit and we don't see a lot of them. So it's difficult to get notes for those teams sometimes. So I like to pop onto social media and check everything that I can to see if anything is going on there. I'm going to try and see if Haas have got anything for us that might be interesting. They have got some quotes. Ao Komatsu says, in terms of performance, there's lots of positives and we raced stronger than anticipated. So there we go. Hülkenberg says, all in all, it was a more positive than negative Sunday. That's good stuff. Kevin Magnussen, it's not been a great weekend here, so hopefully we can do better in Austria. So that's what the team are saying there, the drivers and Ao Komatsu. But I agree on the Komatsu thing. I think he definitely seems to have just stabilised the team. Maybe a calming influence. Just these things happen, don't they? Sometimes you get a change of boss and it does make a difference. So, please do drop a like, by the way. This is a struggle on your own when you've not done it on your own for a while. So please do drop a like. It'd be great to get a few more. 70 likes, 278 of you here. Let's get that a little bit higher. That'd be absolutely fantastic. That'd be fantastic. But yeah, it's... it's. I've not got much on Haas, is what I'm going to finish off by saying on that one before I move on to the rest of the teams. But we'll do the YouTube stuff. And don't worry, if again, for the third time in about 5 minutes, if I have forgotten anything, please do pull me up on it when we get to Q&A, and I'll go back and have a look. But we'll just go through my notes for now, and then we'll do it that way. And then we'll just chill for half an hour and have a bit of an F1 chat in general would be lovely. Definitely do subscribe as well, by the way. Lots of content, hopefully. Coming up, we've got the preview on Thursday for Austria. It's a sprint weekend as well. Woo. And then we've got qualifying watch along, all being well, on Saturday, and of course the race reaction next Sunday, which hopefully, all being well as well, will include Stuart. If I can get I might just uninstall Discord and have a big reinstall and check it's all okay. But yeah, there we go. Let's go on then to Aston Martin. I don't know why I didn't like that. I just did. My notes to this are very, very poor, but fortunately I've had the press release. So, Fernando Alonso wide and cut turn 2 at the start. They were questioning on Sky whether he had any contact. I'll check the press release in a minute. That'll confirm whether he did or not. I'm sure he'll mention it. It was also wide at the exit of turn 12 on lap 11 and kicked up gravel. I put down here frustrating first phase of the race for Alonso. I think actually a very frustrating race. Full stop for Fernando. Lapped at his home Grand Prix, finished P12 and 11.4 seconds off Hulkenberg in P11. So disappointing from Alonso. But actually, I'll rephrase that. Disappointing from Aston Martin in general lately. Really, really disappointing. In fact, Fernando Alonso's first line in his press release, it was disappointing not to score any points this weekend in front of the home fans. The whole weekend we've struggled with our pace and we suffered with high tyre degradation in today's race. So tyre wear was the issue, or tyre deg. Likely to be tough over the next few weekends, but we will get our heads down, work even harder and look to improve. We have Austria next weekend and then the team's home race at Silverstone. So Fernando Alonso predicting a difficult weekend in Austria and Silverstone as well. Says the next few weekends, so it could even mean a bit longer than that. So frustrating for him not to score points. He's saying there, like I say, tyre degradation and also just struggling with pace in general over the whole weekend. Lance Stroll, we knew today was going to be a challenge, but it was still a tough race out there. We went for the two-stop strategy, and as expected, a lot of the race was spent managing tyre degradation. We weren't competitive enough this weekend, so we have to work. We have work to do, ahead of Austria to find some more performance. So again, Lance Stroll there talking about degradation. They did only pit twice though, didn't they? Let me just double check that. So they tried to hang it out as best they could. I wonder if what was his pace like? Alonso 19.7, Stroll did a 23.9 on the final lap. They might have been over the line though, so that might be skewed a bit. But yeah, maybe not. I just wonder if it was worth a third stop, but clearly not. And Mike Crack says a frustrating weekend for the team, but not an entirely unexpected one. It was a race to forget at a track which exposed our known weaknesses. We understand the areas to remedy, but we must be patient as they won't come overnight. Lance and Fernando did the best with what we gave them today. So not a great assessment from Aston Martin, and that's reflected in the fact that they were 14th for Stroll, 12th for Alonso. A little bit of a shame because I think Alonso P10 was a pretty good result yesterday in qualifying, and I did think that if anyone was going to surprise us with some big points today, it was going to be Fernando, home Grand Prix. We've seen it before here. He can pull out a great result when he needs to, and it just didn't really work today. But if the pace isn't in the car and you've got tyre degradation issues, you're not going to have a great result. So that's, I guess, in Fernando's defence. So disappointing for Aston Martin to not be scoring anything today. It's going to sound odd, but I actually think P13 for Zhou Guanyu and P16 for Valtteri Bottas isn't actually a really bad result at all for Sauber, given where they are. I very much do think that overall this season, the way things are in a normal race, all things equal, I think Sauber probably are the slowest out there at the moment. And I don't anticipate that getting any better because a lot of focus now is going to be on planning for 2026. They can't start on the cars until next year for 26, but a lot of thought is going to be on that year now with Audi coming in. So I don't expect Sauber to suddenly make a massive leap into the top end of the midfield at any point soon. But I think that's a really solid result, particularly for Zhou Guanyu in P13. He was actually the first driver to pit at the end of lap 9 and was running as high as P9 through the second round of stops, so was doing relatively well. 6 seconds off Fernando Alonso, so, add the 11 seconds for Alonso on, not really threatening points, but I think that's a really decent result for Zhou Guanyu, to be fair to him. And Bottas, beaten by his teammate, is all I've got in my notes. 9.2 seconds off Ricciardo in 15th and only 1.4 clear of Magnussen, those two matching each other's pace, so not great from Bottas, not terrible, but really, really good, I think, for Zhou Guanyu. We'll start with Joe. He says we had a great race today, a good race today, especially compared to the last couple of events. We were quite strong for most of the day. I hadn't expected to be fighting with the Haas, which gives you a rough idea, no disrespect to Haas, of where Sauber are at the moment. And the feeling is that we have definitely made a step forward. The only blot is lap 1, where I tried to go around the outside to gain some places, but nearly lost it on the gravel. Still, we were able to recover, and I feel that on a race where everyone finished, P13 was the most we could get. That certainly feels like... In fact, I would say that exceeds what I'd expect from... If everyone finishes the race, I would have thought Zhou would be lower than that. So actually, I think that exceeds that. So I think that's a decent result for him. Bottas, we opted to split the strategies today and went for an aggressive one. The feeling on the soft compound was quite okay at first, as we thought that could have been today's best tyre, but unfortunately that turned out to be the case as they quickly began to degrade, or not to be the case, sorry. We're forced to an early stop, and the last stint ended up being too long. Lots of tyre management he's talking about, so they couldn't use the real pace that was in the car. Looking at the positives, overall performance this weekend seemed to be in a better place compared to recent events, as seen with Zhou, who ended up in 13th place, which is good to see. So good stuff there from Sauber. It feels weird because I know 13th isn't exactly thrilling and neither 16th, but I think, again, for where they are, I don't think that's too bad at all. One team, though, that have really disappointed me this weekend. I sound like a parent. I'm really disappointed in you this weekend. Really disappointed. Is RB. They came into this one with a whopper of an upgrade, and I honestly thought they were going to be one of the teams to watch. I thought they could be point scorers. Q3 was an opportunity. A lot of talk about the update, but then as the weekend went on, it was quite clear that, and as you know, the stuff that was going for the team as well was quite clear that it's not given the impact they expected. So disappointing. Ricciardo was 15th in the end. He said it's obviously disappointing finishing in P15, but I'm happy with my race and how we managed it as a team with 2 stops. Yesterday I just missed a touch in qualifying, but honestly today I feel like I maximised it with a good race. Managed the tyres and pushed when we needed to, so unfortunately I think we just didn't have more to show this weekend. So that's disappointing there. And Yuki Tsunoda, very short quote from him. Says it was a tough race in which I struggled. The handling of the car was definitely not easy, and I did not feel as comfortable as I normally do. Something wasn't quite right, and we'll analyse everything that happened to understand ahead of Austria. So there we go. Just going to check what Jody Egginton says, actually, because he might have some information in there. So Ricciardo's pace and degradation on the medium compound in the middle stint was reasonable. He was able to close the group of cars ahead, including Alonso, Stroll and Bottas. However, some blue flags immediately after his second stop cost him some time, so that's there. Yuki wasn't happy with the balance of the car. They tried with flap adjustments and things in the pit stops to make a difference, but obviously didn't succeed, and then he's have a good look over the car. So yeah, really disappointed from RB. I wasn't expecting victories. I'm not going that far, but I thought they were going to do better than that this weekend, so really quite... disappointing, like I say. And finally, last but by no means least, Williams, what do you want me to say? Slide at turn 4 on lap 58 for Albon, went wide into the gravel, kept position and questioned why that was happening, and Logan Sargeant started 19th, and I have no notes from him whatsoever. I think there was a point, actually. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think team orders were called, or Sargeant was just that slow and too wide, but it looked to me like Sargeant at one point let Albon go, so that's probably the most exciting part of the race. Let's see what they're saying in their press release. Sorry that it's press releases, but it's the easiest way to do it with teams that we didn't see a lot of. Albon wanted more this weekend, understandably, but says the car has made a huge step forward compared to last year, and we made the right choices throughout the race. I'll have a look at that in a minute. Said the track is a bit of a reality check. On the other hand, on a more traditional track, our lack of downforce and extra weight combined with high winds and track temperature held us back. With the midfield getting stronger, it's clear that we've got work to do. And Logan Sargeant said that was one of the toughest races of the year. The degradation was accumulating so quickly that it felt like I was managing the tyre from lap 1 on every stint. It's been a difficult weekend for the team. Like last year, we struggled in Barcelona, but had strong performances in Austria and Silverstone, so we'll look forward or look to move on and bounce back at the remaining races of the triple header. But yeah, look, just not that team orders made any difference to either of their races, really. Albon was 18th, 10 seconds clear of Tsunoda, and Sargeant was 20th, 16 seconds behind Tsunoda. So it wasn't exactly, it wasn't anything that had an impact on their races. But it did feel like it just looked like Sargeant was getting out of the way, but at the same time, He's not exactly the quickest out there, is he? Bless him. So I don't know how much of that was down to that. Let's do your super chats. Sorry if I'm missing. I just wanted to get through my notes there. AC, thank you very much for your 41 months. 41 months as a member. Thank you very much for your support, mate. Really appreciate that. Said, why the F1 word are Perez? Stroll and Ricciardo still on the grid. I like that. And why was Perez contract renewed so early? It's a question that I think many people are asking. That final point. It's, I guess, they don't want to rock the boat, do they? That's ultimately what it is. Perez works well with Verstappen. He may not always get you the results, but they know he's not going to cause too many problems, whereas the Sainz might spice things up a bit too much. But yeah, we'll see if we can pick it up for Austria. Ruby, thank you very much for your super chat. Says, Sean, please confirm the name of Aston team principal. That's Mike Crack. Thank you very much, Ruby. I know exactly why you're asking that. And Pascal, hey Pascal, says a weekend of progress for Sauber. The car looked reasonably competitive. I feared this track, but the new upgrades have worked. Since nice to see Peter Sauber at the track, Austria should suit the car more. Thank you very much, Pascal, for your super chat and your support, and hope you can take some positives from this weekend. Like I say, I actually think that's a good result for Joe. I don't think Bottas's was terrible either. Yes. Should we do driver of the day? We haven't done that for a few weeks. Let me know in the chat. One surname. I'll read a few out. After you've dropped the surname of your driver of the day, drop a like as well. That'd be massively appreciated. And subscribe if you're new. Usually we have a guest on here, but if you weren't with us earlier and we had technical issues, so Stuart couldn't make it, unfortunately, the Discord was playing up and we had robots and all sorts. So it was easier to solo it rather than just spend the whole stream going, hello, are you there? Hello. So that was the best way around it. So yes, please drop a like and subscribe. Massively appreciated. Norris got the official driver of the day, and I think that's fair. I think he drove well, but it's tough. It's a really tough one because I look through the grid. Verstappen, I think, managed the race really, really nicely. Norris drove well, but felt the race got away from him. Does that mark him down a little bit? I suppose in some ways. I think Hamilton drove really well today, got some moves done that he needed to get done, was aggressive, but also managed his race well. Russell's move at the start was fantastic and kept him right in the mix until late on when Hamilton got through for a podium. Probably not either of the Ferrari boys, not Piastri, certainly not Perez. I think Gasly and Ocon both get a nod as well. I think Gasly was really strong today with his pace. Ocon too, although was 10 seconds off his teammate, so maybe not, we'll see. So I'm going to go. What are you saying in chat? Let's see. So, a few Verstappens, one for Lewis. Okay, 10 points for who's Pit Lewis. That's driver of the day. I think. This is tough. I think I'm going to go with. I'm torn between Verstappen. I'm going to go Verstappen. I'm torn between Verstappen and Norris, but I'm going to go Verstappen because Norris said after the race that he thinks he should have won it. So I am going to be really, really mean and stingy, like the grumpy old man I am, and I'm going to mark him down by like a point, just because that's the mood I'm in. I'd love to give it to Lando, but he always wins driver of the day on these things anyway. So I'm going to go Verstappen just for a really well-managed race. Soaked up the pressure that came really well. Like I said, good tyre management, good speed. Pit stop strategy, everything worked really well. So Verstappen, but with a nod to all three on the podium and Pierre Gasly as well. So there you go. Yeah, that's true actually. Is it Jerome says Norris lost a place, Verstappen won a place? Easy. There you go. Let's see what you guys said and read some of yours out. Nick Surface, hey Nick, says Verstappen. Ayinka says Verstappen. Pedder says Gasly. Unhinged Gaming says Max. Lee Nux, thank you very much, Lee, says Stoff. Absolutely. Ruby says Lewis Hamilton. Shocking. It's fair. It's fair. KMS Boss says Joe. Raul says on likes. For your information on the new desktop version, close the live chat to like. I didn't know that was a thing, but thank you very much, Raul. James says Gasly, he had the heaviest chassis and a slow pit stop, cost him 8th. I just think Gasly was great all day and in qualifying as well. Nomad says Joe. I'm going to butcher your name. Katazina, you know who you are, and I'm so sorry. You can butcher my name if you like. Says Max, sighted canvas, but with Max, I think he really drove that Red Bull car this weekend. Jake says Verstappen. Michael says Gasly. Mirko says Steven. Not sure who Steven is. Yeah, we've read that one. Richie says Hamilton. Yeah, Raul, so Stuart with Discord Racing for the fastest stream. There you go. Pascal says Hamilton, honourable mention to Gasly and Zhou. Del says Magnussen and Sargeant for not crashing. Fair enough. Nick says Verstappen as well. So thank you very much for your driver of the day picks there. If you have any questions, pop them in the chat. We'll do a general chat about F1 now. If I've missed anything, let me know. Pull me up on it, and I'll go over it quite happily. And apologies again. I'm going to keep saying it because I always feel bad for technical difficulties. They happen. It's not my fault. It's not your fault. It's nobody else's fault. It just happens sometimes. Just frustrating that it had to be this week of all the weeks for it to happen. So yes, there we go. But any questions? Happy to answer anything F1 related or life in general. Really quite happy with that as well. I don't mind. And thank you as well for your messages regarding my mum as well. I appreciate that one. So thank you very much for your continued support and understanding is the phrase I'm using quite a lot to people at the moment. It feels like the most appropriate way to do it. Ruby says that I think the stewards, to be honest, they were fair today. Yeah. Yeah. I know the stewards haven't covered themselves in glory totally this weekend, have they? A lot of people a bit miffed after practice. Yeah, so if they've had a good day, Ruby, there you go. Why not? It happens every now and again. Unhinged Gaming says, rumours of Binotto to Aston, ? I had no idea that was a thing. I know the Adrian Newey rumours are quite big at the moment to Aston Martin, definitely. But I don't think Binotto, because obviously Binotto, I don't think he'd be in a team principal role, would it? It will be something on the engine side or the development side, because that's where he's strongest. People will argue. So I think actually Binotto will be a good addition to Aston Martin in some capacity. I think he would. He's very experienced. I know that, you know, his time with Ferrari's team principal was mixed, and some people weren't happy when he got sacked. Some people thought it was too late sacking him, but or him moving on. But I think his experience is vital. I think that could be massive for Aston Martin. So I think that'd be a great signing. And I think Adrian Newey as well. Aston Martin could be a team to watch in 2026. Definitely. Yeah, it was Ericsson's. The technical difficulties were Ericsson's fault. 100% Ericsson's fault. I can't believe him. I can't believe it. Slighted canvas, Carlos to Williams, ? Yes. Although, there was a moment in the paddock today or yesterday, all the days merge into one, today or yesterday, where Flavio Briatore and Carlos Sainz Sr. were exchanging phone numbers. That could mean absolutely stuff all, but it's just worth mentioning there is a vacancy at Alpine. So, you know, could Briatore, you know, work his magic there, get Carlos Sainz on board. I would still say Williams are the favourites. I think the Audi stuff seems to have really gone quite quiet now, doesn't it, for one reason or another. So I think I said this weeks ago now, that the problem with the Audi move is accepting what could be a really difficult year at Sauber next year. So I'm not convinced that that's going to appeal to Carlos Sainz. That I could see that appealing to, not that Carlos Sainz is old, to be clear, he's younger than me, but I think that would appeal to a younger driver, to know they could have a year, take it easy at Sauber, get used to Formula One, get up to speed, and then the Audi arrival. I don't think... It's a big gamble as well, isn't it? You take a year with Sauber struggling in the midfield, and then you're pinning all your hopes on Audi potentially building a great engine and a great car and competing. It's a lot of risk for Carlos Sainz. And yes, it might be a massive paycheck, but that massive paycheck doesn't always mean anything, does it? It's the risk that's associated with it. So I think Williams are probably favourites at the moment, but you know, the seats available, so don't ever rule it out. And you know, I hate to say it, I don't want to be that guy, but you know, Red Bull do like to move drivers around, don't they, as well? And contracts don't always mean that you're going to keep your seats. It's all down to performance, ultimately with performance clauses. So they may reconsider if Perez continues to struggle, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think it'll be Williams for Carlos Sainz would be my pick. I think of all of those available seats, yes, Williams have had a few difficult races. Yes, Alpine are on the up. Yes, there's Audi coming in, but I think Williams will be a great spot for Sainz, and Sainz would be a great driver for Williams. Actually, Sainz Albon, that's a cracking lineup, actually. So I can see that one happening. I'm surprised it wasn't announced this week, actually. All the rumours were Spanish Grand Prix week. There's now talk that it could be next week, but I think this is something that will rumble on. So I'm going to say Silverstone week, just because, you know, why not? I want to be different. There you go. Perez says, imagine if Audi went out and scooped K-Mag 2 and basically stole both of the Haas drivers. That could be fun, couldn't it? For Haas, although Haas look like they're going to be Behrman and possibly Ocon. We'll see. If you can't get a top team, you might as well get a big paycheck from Nick. Yeah. No, because I can see that argument. Yeah, sorry, I'm just pondering. I can see that argument, but I think Sainz will want to be competitive. I think Williams will still have a shot. I still think, by the way, I don't know, again, it's just the way it goes in Formula 1 sometimes. I think it's absolutely crazy that we're in a position right now where Carlos Sainz was linked to Red Bull, was linked to Mercedes. Before Lewis Hamilton decided to go to Ferrari, all the talk was of Sainz renewing, and there's no way he's going to move on because he's happy there and they're happy with him. And now we're talking about Williams, Sauber, or Alpine. It just doesn't feel. Nobody deserves anything. You have to earn it. So that's the point I want to make before I say this. But it just doesn't feel right that Carlos Sainz is having those teams to pick from when you look at some of his performances of late, what we know he can do, and the other teams he was linked to. I know, again, that's just the way it goes sometimes. It's Sainz. It's frustrating sort of sitting here and talking about Williams and Sauber when I would argue that if I was Toto Wolff, I would put Carlos Sainz in that car for a couple of years and put Antonelli in a Williams and give Antonelli some time out of the spotlight to develop in Formula 1 rather than throwing him straight into a Mercedes. That's my take. There'll be lots of people that disagree, some people that agree, but that's what I would do in Toto Wolff's position. Carlos Sainz alongside George Russell for a couple of years, put Antonelli in the Williams like they did with Russell for 2 or 3 seasons even, and then if Antonelli proves himself in F1, make the move. Because I just think that's quite sensible, but maybe why I'm not a team boss. I'm not willing to take that gamble. At the same time, I then criticise Toto Wolff for not taking a risk, so I suppose that's that. But Sainz and Russell, there you go. Yeah, that is true. I get that, Raul, that Sainz, being a stopgap at Mercedes, but at the same time, whilst George Russell is their junior, if Carlos Sainz gets in that car for 2 years or 3 years at Mercedes, absolutely slaughters George Russell, it'll be George Russell that gets moved on. Do you know what I mean? So if I was Carlos Sainz, again, I'm putting myself in his position, and yes, it would be seen as a stopgap position. My reaction to that would be, then I need to prove to you that I'm the one to back and not George Russell as Antonelli's teammate for the future. So it could give us, I tell you what, that would give us a great fight. I quite enjoy that, but yeah, we'll see. But it sounds as though, if you want to do drive market talk very quickly, we know that Red Bull are tied up. We know that McLaren are tied up. We know Ferrari are as well. It sounds as though it's going to be Russell and Antonelli at Mercedes. That's point one. I suppose Alpine is likely to be Gasly. He's not signed yet, but that's likely to be Gasly. And there's talk of Doohan. There's talk of Sainz. There's lots of talk around the Alpine seat. I'm not sure what's going to happen there. Haas sounds like it'll be Behrman and possibly Ocon is the one there, although Ocon has now been linked to Audi. We know, I mean, look, so I'm going to say it. There is a seat open at Aston Martin. That'll be Stroll. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. Sauber, I'm not even going to try and guess on that one. We know Hulkenberg's there, but Sauber is going to be whoever's left after it all shakes out, I'm afraid. Looking at you, Pascal. So that's the way it's going to be, I'm afraid. Williams will be Albon. I think Williams will be Albon and Sainz and RB, as much as it really annoys me. Tsunoda is confirmed, but the bit that really annoys me is apparently, unless he basically implodes, Ricciardo will be in that seat next year as well. So there you go. That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to say any more. I'm not even going to mention his name. They're doing to Antonelli what Barca have done to numerous youngsters post-Messi to destroy their careers, says Dell. Fair enough. Don't forget the FIA, of course, lowering the age limit or not lowering the age limit. They've put like a special dispensation in, haven't they? That if you are showing exceptional speed and talent in junior careers at the age of 17, you can move to F1. But I think the minimum is still 18 unless you qualify for this special dispensation, which makes you wonder what the point of the rule is in the first place, really. Just get rid of it. If you're good enough, you're old enough. And if you're good enough, you're young enough. So I have no problem with Alonso sticking around, and I have no problem with the youngster getting an opportunity either. But it does feel very quick for Antonelli. And I don't think... I'm just going to go find the F2 standings. I don't actually think, looking at the season so far, that... In fact, no. Without the Mercedes backing, I don't think he'd be in the conversation, because I don't think he's doing enough at the moment to pick up a seat in F1. But junior careers are fascinating. I think we put a lot of weight on them for obvious reasons, super license points and things. But I do look at the junior careers, and you think about drivers who have come through with very little. Kimi Raikkonen basically had no junior career. It feels like, compared to some drivers, he became a world champion. Max Verstappen, outside of karting, had quite a short junior career before F1. He's a 3-time world champion, heading towards a 4th. You look at, I'm trying to think of another example. Yuki Tsunoda. He's not a world champion, but he was sort of moved quite quickly through the formula to get to F1. So it sometimes works, but then you have to be careful, because you look at the other side and you look at, I'm sorry, you know what's coming. Stoffel Van Dorn basically won everything on his way to F1 and didn't do well in F1 for one reason or another. So whilst it's important to take into account junior careers, it's not the be-all and end-all. So if Mercedes are looking at Antonelli, this is my point really, if Mercedes are looking at Antonelli saying, he's bloody quick, we need him in that car, he is our future, that's going to outweigh his performance in F2. But as fans, we don't see all that, do we? So we have to sit back and look at it, and we look at junior careers. CPB says, I don't think Ben will go to Haas. Gene doesn't like rookies. I think he will. I do. I've said it a million times. I don't think you give someone 6 FP1 sessions for that. You only have to give them 2. I don't think you give them 6 unless you're intending to put them in that car. But I would imagine Gene Haas, to sort of take your point, I think what Gene Haas has probably said to Komatsu is, if you take in Behrman, you need experience alongside him. You need to either keep K-Mag, bring in some experience in like a Sainz for argument's sake, or, as is rumoured, bring Ocon in, because a lot of people don't like Ocon, but he's got experience. So I think that's what they'll look at. He's not going to allow them to do a Mazepin Mick Schumacher situation. No chance. I agree with you on that. Antonelli is not killing it. Pressure is too much. Question mark, says Jerome. I don't think he needs to kill it. I just need to see more. But at the same time, I don't think the Prem is very good this year, is it? It's quite a weird F2 season if you've been watching it. Very, very odd. I've got no idea who's going to win this championship, which is kind of great. I kind of wish we had that in F1 sometimes. Definitely. Val's is working miracles with £3.50, says Dell. That's true. And a bag of quavers. Don't forget the bag of quavers. Always do that on the end. TFFW says Ocon's got experience in absolutely tormenting his teammates. Yeah, I'm gonna defend him. I always defend him, but I see these all the time. These, 10 times Ocon collided with his teammate, and then I look at them and it's like 8 times aren't even his fault, and it's like, come on, be fair. What happened in Monaco was out of order. I get that he's trying to make a place, but yeah, you can't do that to your teammate in Monaco. Yes, there were moments with Perez, but Perez was just as guilty, and in many moves more so than Ocon was in their battle. Perez, I still maintain Perez was rattled. I was standing by that. It's a long time ago, and who cares anymore? But it's not all on Ocon, and I know you weren't saying that. But yeah, I'll always defend him on that one. Any questions about the race weekend? Actually, because I did mean to. I'm sure there's some stuff that you want to talk about from the weekend itself. Rather than just driver market talk. I know one thing, a lot people love driver, but some people hate it. But most people seem to love driver market talk, and I totally get it. But it is a race reaction. I suppose we ought to ask questions about the race. I get on one. I have these conversations with myself sometimes. So I get a stream going and I'm off on one, so definitely. But I think plenty to talk about from the weekend, I'm sure. Even away from the race itself, just the weekend in general. I mean, we've got Briatore back in F1, which is an interesting choice. But, Pat Simmons was just as involved in all of that as Briatore was. So, and he's been back around, not just, he's at Audi, isn't he, for the future? Unless I got that wrong, but I think Pat Simmons has gone to Audi for the future. So he's there, and he's been part of F1 itself. at the top level. So, I mean, they've obviously moved on. If it's okay for Pat Simmons to come back, then, I guess it's okay for Briatore to. But on both counts, and I think me and Jonty had this conversation when Pat Simmons did come back, actually, that it doesn't sit right with either of us, generally, because of what happened. But again, I suppose there is an argument for... they were given a lifetime ban. That was appealed and overturned. They were given a 3-year ban, which I think they accepted, and then they came back. So if they have served their ban, there is an argument for, they did the time for committing the crime. So do we let them just come back now? Well, I think the biggest frustration for me is that when you read the F1 article about it, they don't even mention Singapore 2008. I thought Simmons was a lifetime ban, Nomad. I might be wrong. If I am wrong, then I apologise. But I think he was given a hefty ban, wasn't he? Like Flav. I thought Flav. I could have. Who else was it? It was only those two that really got the heavy end of it, because they were the ones that were mainly involved, weren't they? But it was a proper scandal. Not some of these scandals that people think are scandals nowadays. It was a proper, actual race fixing, genuine race fixing, which, not Fernando's fault, but it still amazes me that counts as a win. But I suppose they can't go taking wins off him there, because that then might mess things up championship-wise. I don't know, but yeah, it's an interesting choice, but it's not really in a major role. It's sort of an advisory kind of capacity. He's been around F1 anyway at weekends for a while now. It's not like it's just happened, and so kind of used to it now. But like I say, if he gets a 3-year ban, he serves that ban. Maybe then he's got a right to come back. But it's I can understand why people aren't totally comfortable with it. I can understand, but also annoying that F1 don't acknowledge that it happened. I know it's quite a mark on the sport, but at least acknowledge why, rather than just he stepped back for a while. Because he didn't step back for a while. He fixed the race. But anyway, yeah, there you go. Mr. Bungle says, such a disappointment this season and race. Did you not enjoy that one, Mr. Bungle? Yeah. Nick says, not really race fixing for me. Cheating, maybe. It was definitely race fixing, Nick. They literally fixed the results of the race. Simmons was 5 years. There we go. Flav was lifetime. Then they both got overturned, says Nomad. And then they both just confirmed, Nomad. They both got 3 years, didn't they? Something like that. But it was something along those lines. But yeah, thank you, Nomad. I appreciate that. But yeah, no, I think if he's just going to be there, advisory role, might give him some advice on drivers, because one thing Flavio Briatore is very good at is finding drivers. He gave Michael Schumacher a shot at Benetton, didn't he? Fernando Alonso, of course. And I think those two went on to do pretty well in Formula One. So I don't think it's a bad appointment. What it does do, and this isn't a comment on Briatore, it does stink of desperation from Alpine. Like, really reeks of desperation. They've sacked so many people, or so many people have mutually left the team over the last few weeks and months. And then Ocon's leaving as well, which, some people say isn't a bad thing, but he's moving on. It's another bit of a shake-up at the team. And then they've sort of gone, what can we do? Oh, let's go get Briatore. It's just, again, it's not a Briatore issue. It just reeks of desperation from Alpine, a team that I think, I don't really know. I don't really know what's going on there. It's just an absolute mess. And there's even talk that they're going to end up with a Mercedes power unit in the future. I know Toto Wolff has sort of played that down this weekend, but apparently Alpine might be powered by Mercedes in the future. So, the Renault works team powered by Mercedes is not a good look for Renault. At the same time, very different circumstances and very different reasons, but at the same time, the team used to be powered by Mercedes when they were Lotus in that Maldonado Grosjean year together. So it has happened before. It's very, very weird. It's very, very weird. Perez says, Sean, it's the French. They talked about using an engine supplier. Yes, they are desperate. I don't know what the French thing comes in there. I'm not gonna get into that one with you, Pedder. But I know if they're talking to other engine suppliers as the Renault factory team, then they are desperate. And you throw in the Briatore thing, it's very strange. But if Renault aren't in it, their hearts aren't in it, just sell the team and go away. So I think I've said this before. Honda and Renault really generally piss me off. They they turn up, they talk the talk. Sometimes they walk the walk, sometimes they don't. They make the money they want to in F1 or whatever, and they get all their sponsorship out there, and they're already happy. And then as soon as things aren't going their way or they can't turn it around, they walk away. And then a couple of years later, they come back again, and then they walk away, and then they come back again. It's like, just don't. It's why I'll always, to a point, defend Ferrari getting their, let's call it, loyalty money. Do you know what I mean? I don't like a team necessarily getting more money just because they're loyal to the sport, but at least Ferrari, whilst they've had their moments, have largely stayed loyal to the sport. And I think that's, Williams as well, you can throw in there. Mercedes with their engine power and obviously the team now. But Renault and Honda just generally annoy me. They just do it all the time. So, yeah. To be fair, Honda left when they were winning and are coming back now anyway. Yeah, but they sort of weren't, were they, winning? And they were talking about leaving anyway, and then they started winning. Then they took the name off the car. Then they started winning. Then they put the name back on the car, and now they decided to do a deal with Aston Martin, which actually I think is a great deal for Aston Martin. But, yeah. You'll probably get kicked off the chat if it's a link to an X-rated video as a troll, says CPB1. Have we had... See, I only get top chat. I don't get all chat through because I can't be bothered with bots. So I don't know if I've missed something. So apologies if I've not dealt with bots, but there you go. There you go. I feel like there's a conversation going on that I do not want to be part of. I really, really don't. So, yeah, let's move on from that. Let's move on from Flav. He's back. He'll probably do a few years and then retire again with a nice paycheck. There you go. Pascal says the whole Alpine saga will end up with Andretti buying the team. I just want, if Andretti are going to be more committed to it or are going to try and move forward, whereas Alpine are currently in turmoil, then I'd like to see that change. But I think if I asked chat, most people, if I said, which team do you think should be sold to make way for Andretti, or should Andretti buy, I think a lot of people would say the second Red Bull team. I might be wrong. I'm sure you'll let me know. But yeah, it'll be interesting what happens with Alpine. But what I will say is that this weekend is a great weekend for them. And we've seen in the last few weeks and races that, green shoots of recovery, let's say, have started to come through for Alpine, and they seem to be making steps forward. So hopefully things are turning around. But I don't think Alpine are going to be threatening for titles anytime soon. There you go. Pedder said it was just sources to cool Thard's quote on Behrman, nothing dirty. Okay, fair enough. There you go. I see what you're saying. That's fine, yeah. Is the money involved in EVs and rerouting car plants that affects all other endeavours? Says Raoul, talking to Sighted Canvas. That's an interesting combo. I might have to look at that. It could be good. But yeah, no, I mean, look, I've got to say this as well in the rules. I said it to Stuart in DMs yesterday, I think it was. You look at how close it was in qualifying. You look at today with Norris closing down Verstappen and how close it is between Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari in that mix. I kind of hope that the FIA misplaced the blueprints for 2026 and have to redo them, and that pushes that back to like 2030 or something. Because if this is the convergence we've got now, imagine where we'll be in a couple of years' time if we just left the rules as they are. Could you imagine the chaos potentially that we'd see? But there you go. They want to change the rules. They're going to change the rules. I think parts of the rules are a bit half-arsed. I've said that before. But we'll see what happens in 2026. It might be fine. It might be fine. Nice race today, says Marta. Austria should be fun. Hey, Marta. Yeah, no, Austria's always fun. I love Austria. It's a sprint weekend as well. Do you know, actually, I'm not a massive sprint fan, as you'll know, but Brazil and Austria, I do actually really enjoy the sprints there because I think those tracks, they're a bit shorter. They've got lots of DRS. They do actually tend to give us some pretty good sprint action, so I'm looking forward to that. There are some tracks that sprints don't belong on. Definitely not, but we'll see how we go. But yeah, and no Crofty in Austria as well. Says KMS boss. Is Harry Benjamin back for that one? That'd be good. I think he did well, all things considered, for his first race. Ruby's tempted to go to Austria. That's on my bucket list of F1 tracks, Ruby. Apparently there are some points you can sit at and you can see the whole track. So Plus, it's beautiful. I mean, Austria's beautiful anyway. I've only been there very briefly, but I'd like to go to the Red Bull Ring for a proper race weekend there, so that'd be good. And oh god, I've got pretty much every race on my bucket list, to be honest. Spa, Monza, yeah. I've done Silverstone. That's fine. Just bloody expensive. So expensive they can't sell the tickets, which is fascinating to see. But I'm sure that'll all change. Yeah, KMS Boss has a crofty tracker spreadsheet. Why not? Austria Grand Prix is amazing, even without the sprints, says Derpy Mustard. It tends to give us a great racing, doesn't it? So, looking forward to that one as always. Any questions then? Any more questions? I'm going to keep reading your comments, but any more questions? If not, we'll wrap it up. We will not be doing 2 hours tonight. Some of you will be pleased to hear, with me being guestless this evening because of the issues earlier, which again, I apologise for. Wish V says Crofty was asking people to buy Silverstone tickets. Was he? Is he gonna remortgage his house to help people out? I know F1's expensive, but goodness me, some of those prices are absolutely bonkers. I was looking at it this year, but I can't afford it. There's just no way I can get Silverstone at that kind of price. It's I would say it borders on not worth it. To be honest, when you look at there are other tracks that you can go to in Europe. Looking at it from a UK point of view, that including travel and accommodation are cheaper than a weekend at Silverstone, to be honest. So he did. What else did he say? He kind of said after qualifying, he said in qualifying that he put some weight behind the Lewis Hamilton conspiracy theories, or the conspiracy of Mercedes tampering with his car or sabotaging his car after qualifying. I thought, oh, shut up. But he just. The Sky coverage, the commentary, and I think they've kind of given up trying to hide it now, is just so infuriating. I have no issue with Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, but I don't support any of the British drivers. So hearing constant circle jerking over the three of them really does pee me off over a weekend. I'd love. I'm still tempted to get a VPN. And just go with F1 TV because I think Alex Jakes is bloody fantastic. See you next time, Sighted Canvas. Hey, have a good evening, mate. Hopefully see you next week. But yeah, no, it just does my head in. But there you go. Also annoys when people apologise for swearing. Stop it. I know they've got to be careful. Watersheds, children, etc. But kids are going to pick it up online anyway these days. So what's the point? Maybe if they drop the C-bomb, I'll let it off. But you know, yeah. Ruby says Sky Germany is better. Jerome says Alex is the best. I love Alex Jakes. So passionate, isn't he? And he's great with his words. I guess monologues is what I'm thinking of here. His commentary monologues. Pascal says Budapest is reasonably priced for the main stand if you book us an early bird. We'll be going to Hungary. Can't wait. It's a beautiful place actually, is Budapest, isn't it? Or Hungary in general, actually, parts of it. I've not done Hungary. I know people from Hungary, so I've seen photos and they've told me things about it, and it's just a beautiful place. But I've France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany, and Poland are the European places I've been to, and obviously the UK because I'm from here. So, weather forecast for Spielberg: rain Thursday, not Friday to Sunday. Rain following Monday. Says Quick Scott. I checked the weather forecast now. I actually saw earlier. If I check Red Bull Ring weather. I saw thunderstorms for Friday, but it has calmed down. It still says rain. So obviously every forecast is different, or more or less. But at the moment, there's a 67% chance of rain on Sunday for lights out, according to this forecast. But that's definitely. I thought that was higher earlier, so it's definitely coming down. But yeah, I think forecasts are all different, aren't they? So there's rain in the air. A wet sprint could be fun. Can you keep up with the race reactions with 3 Grand Prix to come in a row? Have you the stamina, says Michael Gott? Yes. The race reactions will always be here. I'll always make sure I do those, whatever happens in life. And hopefully, again, all being well next week, we'll do the qualifying watch on Saturday as well. And the race reaction plus the preview on Thursday. We'll do the same for Silverstone as well. So, yeah. That's the plan. Obviously, as I said at the start of the stream, things very up in the air at the moment personally with mum and things. So it all depends how that goes. But just bear with me a little bit as we hurtle towards these. I actually think things up in the air generally, but also family stuff as well. More important family stuff. Family comes first, obviously. Austria Sprint last year was wet and possibly the best race of the year, says Nick. That was... Oh, come on, Nick. Let me help. Help me. Was that the Saturday that the Haas drivers were like mega competitive? Or was that the year before? They were right in there, weren't they? Battling with Hamilton and co. For some really good points. And then it turned out to just be a sprint. that was, if that's a race that I remember it, that was a really good race. So a bit of rain wouldn't hurt at all. Let's do a few more comments then, a few more questions, and then we will wrap it up for today. Thank you very much, MD Games, member for 4 months. Appreciate your continued support. Thank you very much for your membership there. I initially felt that Norris would have had a season similar to Button did in BAR in 2004, finishing 3rd overall. Now he's having a season similar to Button in 2011 at McLaren, finishing 2nd, says CPB. Yeah. Bit earlier in his career, though. Oh, no. Actually, no, it isn't, is it? Not at all, no. No, Button debuted in 2000, didn't he? So that's only sort of 4 years. So, yeah, no. Interesting. Bye, Marta. Good to see you. Hopefully see you on Saturday next week. Have a good one. Enjoy your week. Enjoy the rest of your evening. F1 word you should put in for Crofty's job. Oh, God, no. If you've ever heard me... if you've ever heard me try to commentate a race, oh, dear. It's... I mean, these are tough enough. Let's be honest. Yeah. No, you don't want me commentating it. If you think Crofty makes a lot of mistakes, good God. Good God. It's just not worth it. You'd unsubscribe immediately from the channel, from Sky, from everything. It would be terrible. It would be terrible. But no, I think the Austria Sprint could be fun next week. And then it's Silverstone, isn't it? Week off, then it's Hungary and Belgium. Some good races coming up. I'm looking forward to it. Steckleton says, would you like to have Hockenheim back with these kinds of cars? To be honest, you could have stopped there. Would you have liked Hockenheim back? Yes, I'd love Hockenheim back. I really, really, really like Hockenheim. Old and new. I think the newer, it's not even new, the newer layout, I think that's got a lot of hate and gets a lot of stick, but actually for racing, I think it's a pretty good layout. So I do like Hockenheim. Would love to see it back, but I don't think I think I read something the other week about the audience in Germany just isn't there for it at the moment, and that's a shame because I think Germany's one of those that I kind of want to see on the calendar. I think, Silverstone, Spain, whether it's Barcelona or Madrid, whatever, but Spain, Germany, France, I feel like they should be on the calendar, but obviously, doesn't matter what, I should be there. You got to pay for it first. It's not cheap, but you need to be able to get the fans through the gates. And if they're not doing that, then there's no point. But I'd love Hockenheim back. I'm going to say Sepang. Yes, I'd love to see Sepang back and Kyle Lamy. That'd be amazing. But if I had my way of races we keep and races I'd like to see back, we'd be racing every week apart from Christmas. In fact, we'd probably still have a race at Christmas, the Christmas Grand Prix. It'd be a pretty long calendar, and 24 is a lot as it is, so we don't want any more, but that's that one. I miss the old track going deep into the forest, says Nick. Yeah, no, it was great. It was a great track originally, but I do think the newer layout, which isn't, again, not new at all, but you know what I mean, is great for racing. But there was something special about Hockenheim. And I always, when I think of Hockenheim and the blast through the trees, I always think back to 2000 and the damp, dry, wet 2000 German Grand Prix. Barrichello 18th on the grid coming through to win. That was, by the way, this always amazes Stuart, by the way, and he's not here to hear it, so a bit of a shame there. But the 2000 German Grand Prix was the last F1 race I didn't watch live. I've watched every single one live since. And that was because I was at Party on the Pier in Cleethorpes, watching Billy Piper and others. Got home and watched the highlights. Gutted I didn't see it live. Fantastic race. I filmed it, or I taped it on VHS and watched that back. But yeah, no, that was a hell of a race. I always think it's just something about the dry parts of the track, the blasting through the trees, the drama that came with it. It was a great race. But anyway. That's neither here nor there. I'm going to stop it. We're going to stop with the reminiscing because that'll be it. We're here all night. Definitely. Not Pete's favourite, but a French Grand Prix at Manicourt. Says Michael. I prefer Manicourt to Paul Ricard. I do. But I'm not sure if it's really for modern day F1 cars. But then is Monaco. And we still go there. So there you go. Pascal saying we prefer Manicourt and not Le Castellet. That's interesting. The Ferrari V12 through the forest was some sound. It absolutely was. Just the V12 in general. Prefer a V10 though, personally. Definitely. Quick Scott makes a good point on the German Grand Prix. Once we've got Audi in, could we get a German Grand Prix, their home track? Good point. If they're successful or do well, and Hulkenberg does well there, or whoever, we need more German drivers on the grid, is what will do it, I think. We are at Zandvoort because of Max Verstappen, as an example. Plus, it's a great track, but yeah. And I absolutely agree. Indianapolis over Miami every day of the week. Yes. Maybe an F1 race at Le Mans. There you go, Nick. Any more questions then? Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up because it's getting a bit waffly now, and I'm not even talking about the race anymore, so it'll annoy people later. It's supposed to be a race reaction, because you know what the internet's like. I'm just quite happy to be sat here chatting to you all, actually, and just after the week I've had, just having a chat. It's nice. But yeah, I wouldn't mind a race. So I've always said somewhere like Finland. I don't know how that would work. I know they've got a track there, haven't they? But I think for the millionth time on this channel, Finnish drivers have given so much to F1. It'd be nice to give something back. It really, really would. Domino's all day long, CPB over Papa John's. Definitely. Perez says, I have to apologise for Montreal. I said Haas had the wrong tyres ready. This was Tom K's claim. Was that not true? Okay. It's all right. We all get information, don't we? So, we all, it's absolutely fine. Pedder is the point I'm making. It's fine. You gave me the info. I didn't have it. We discussed it, and that's fair. And if it didn't happen, then at least we still discussed it, didn't we? So we've not lost anything. So I appreciate the fact you're willing to throw the info in if I've not got it there. So I appreciate that. Wish says, Sean, last question. Do you improvise tyre talk time, or are they scripted? Previews are scripted generally, but that's because I can't remember all those stats myself. But tyre talk time generally comes. It's something that I'll type a stat and then I'll go, oh, that's the number 3, or that's the number 5, or that's the number 7. And I'm like, that's tyre talk time sorted. The most difficult thing with tyre talk time is finding pictures of drivers pulling stupid faces, because I just imagine that I start falling into the tyre talk segue, and I could just imagine you lot at home going, oh my God, for crying out loud, why does he do these? I know some people really, really hate them, but to be honest, that just fuels me to keep doing them, because I'm just that kind of guy. If I know it annoys you, best thing to do, if you absolutely hate tyre talk time, don't tell me you hate it, because I'm going to keep doing it. I'm just that kind of a-hole. There you go. I thought you missed tyre talk when you went past the number 3. Do like them, says Raoul. It's good fun. It just, otherwise, I find the previews a bit too serious otherwise, and I don't think they need to be. They can be a bit more sarcastic. And CPB's last question of the evening says, thoughts on England's chances at the Euros? As I've said many times before, I don't support England, which really surprises people and it infuriates my family, but I don't. Secondly, and I do mean this with the greatest of respect to anyone that enjoys international football, I really couldn't give a toss about the Euros. I really don't enjoy international football generally. I much prefer domestic football. Definitely. I'm going to read 5 more points now at random. So let's have a scroll through here, and then I am definitely ending the stream because I need to go get a drink now and get ready for probably a difficult week. We'll see how we go. Let's talk about track limits and penalties instead. Says KMS Boss. Not many track limits today. A few people got close with 2 warnings, but nobody got any warnings track limits today. I was watching on the multi-view for F1 thing. So they've got some great stuff on there. Definitely worth checking that out if you haven't already. But yeah, not many track limits there at all. Ruby says, move of the race today, question mark. Oh, move of the... there were some good ones. Again, that outside of turn 1 always looks quite spectacular. I'm going to go Norris on Russell because it was a multi-corner battle, if that makes sense. Yeah, I think that was really, really good to watch. But there were some great moves around the outside of turn 1 generally, which I enjoyed. So that's my move of the day. Last thought on Newey's future, says Michael. I am going to go with... I want him at Ferrari. but even Ferrari can't, Ferrari, a one-horse race for Adrian Newey's signature, and they still lose to somebody else. Do you know what? Everyone's saying Aston Martin in the news. I'm going to be really boring and say that Newey retires. He's been to Aston Martin. He'll have another look around the garage. He'll look at contracts. He'll look at, salary and everything like that. And he'll look at the Ferrari offer and whatever else on the table. And he'll ultimately go, do you know what? I don't need this. And he'll go retire. That's what I'm going to go with. But I suspect possibly IndyCar, if we're being serious. But I not IndyCar. I really two things, but possibly Aston Martin is what I was going to say. But yeah, no, I'm going to go with retirement for Newey. And I wouldn't blame him at all, by the way. I really, really wouldn't. Actually, I've got a question for you guys quickly, because I'll need it for my preview. And Google Earth hasn't updated. Have they put gravel at the final couple of corners at Austria or not? They were talking about it, but I don't think I've seen confirmation. Good point from Raul there, actually, by the way. Whoever has the best road car program could be good for Adrian Newey. That's a good point. Yeah, he likes his F1 stuff, but he likes to focus on other things as well, doesn't he? So, could be Aston. I don't know who's got the best road car projects. That's a conversation for another day, though, definitely. But yeah, if you know about that one, let me know. But I hope they have. Certainly, the final corner seems to be where it's the worst. But yeah. That's it, I think. Yeah, let me know if you're watching this later. By the way, sorry if it's been really waffly. And apologies for the technical issues again. But if you are watching this later on playback, let me know in the comments if you know of the gravel. I will go and check after this. I'm not just going to rely on people telling me, but it'll be interesting to know. If anyone lives by the track, just pop down. Let me know. Give me a call. It's fine. But I'd like to see it. But I know they've got to think of other things as well, other sports that are there. But yes, we're going to leave it there, because otherwise I'm going to sit and talk to you all night, and it's going to do people's head in later. And I'm sure you guys in chat will be quite happy to keep chatting, but I know not everyone does. So we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much for your company this fine evening. It's been emotional as always. Once again, thank you for all your messages, and also just thank you for bearing with me a little bit over the next few days. And this week as well. Hopefully, Mum's still with us. She might have to have surgery, but all being well, she'll be home next week at some point, so I can get back to Thursday preview. Will be out whatever happens. Saturday, hopefully a quality watch on. Then Sunday we'll do the race reaction as well. Thank you as well for your support this evening. I know it's been frustrating with the technical stuff. I know the solo streams aren't for everybody, but not a lot I can do about that one. Please do leave a like before you go. That'd be massively appreciated, and subscribe as well so you don't miss out on that preview and that next week. That would be fantastic for the support. And thank you for your super chats this evening. I think I got them all. Just double check. So thank you to MD Games for being a member, Pascal, Ruby, to AC, Ruby again, and for Bill as well. I really, really appreciate your continued support. It's good fun. Thank you very much. Is that it? I think that's it. Should I go? Should I say bye? Should I do the line? Do the raw. Should I do the line? I think I should. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word. And until next time, goodbye.